several people, and particularly Sue Lowry, gave us that Shirley Whitaker Tote2Vote program was one that we were all interested in, always, but particularly in these last years, it is very important. And I think a lot of the people here, for those of you who don't know what an incredible person that Dr. Shirley Jackson Whitaker is, she is a very active member of our community, a medical specialist, an artist, a community activist, and the creator of Ashes to Ashes, which is an incredible program. Her latest project, Tote2Vote, is what we're asking her to talk to us about. I love to watch her expressions on Instagram when she talks about it. And I'm looking forward to hearing how she would like us to look at it and what we can do to help. Because for the League, we are the importance of voting, and for people being able not just to register, but to vote is vital. It is a major tenet of the League throughout the United States, et cetera. So Dr. Whitaker, if you're ready, without further ado, I'm introducing Dr. Shirley Whitaker. We have to unmute you.
Oh, unmute.
Oh, she's wait. You're still muted.
Can you
Press unmute.
Oh, okay, there you go.
There you go.
Hello, I am Dr. Shirley Jackson Whitaker, and I was asked to talk with you about my journey into the world of trying to get people to vote. I'm a daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Eddie and Charlie Mae Jackson from South Georgia. My mother often talked with me about voting. She stated that when she was, I guess around 13 or 14, as she was in the fields working, she remembered the whites leaving and waving at them and says, "We are going to vote." And she said, "One day I'm going to vote." She sort of resent them being able to do it, and she couldn't. So I realize now what a tough journey that was for her to get the opportunity to vote. She was well aware of the suffering that could result from her voting, but she did that anyway. She knew what they would do to humiliate you when you went to vote. And one thing they would do was make you sign an X when you went to vote. So one day I came home from high school and she was sitting and she had gotten one of my pieces of paper and she was writing her name over and over and over again. And I asked, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm writing my name." I said, "Why you gotta write your name so many times?" She says, "When I go to vote and they tell me, 'Annie, put your X here,' she says, I'm gonna stand and tell them, I don't need to put an X. I know how to write my name." So that was a big deal for her. And I could always tell when the day she was going to vote, she would get up early and she would dress in her finery. Most of the time, my mother would dress fancy when she's going to church, funerals, and to vote. She would dress, and she said, when I go to vote, they're gonna know I'm somebody, because she would dress in her finest clothes. And then she would come back home, and then she would all day go back and forth taking people to vote. She would have a stack of papers in her in the back seat of her car. And when people went to vote, she would give that sheet to them so they would know how to vote. She said, it's important that you vote. She said, they vote and they're voting for some reason. And I want to do it too, that they're able to accomplish things by voting. And so I remember that, and I've always tried to do something to improve the people, all, especially African Americans, opportunity to vote, because, people died to give me this opportunity to vote. When I went to college, I joined this sorority called Delta Sigma Theta sorority. It is the largest African American female sorority in the world. And it was established in 1913, January 1913. March 1913, March the 4th, was when suffrage had a big parade in Washington, D.C. There was pushing for the amendment for women to have the right to vote. And my sorority got dressed in their finery to march. The suffrage movement leaders did not want them to march. They did not want them a part of voting. They went as far as they teamed up with the Klan, or white supremacy, whatever you want to call them, with hopes of pushing their suffrage rights. And they did not want to be associated with Black women. So they had talked about separating the groups, have the Klan between the suffrage movement leaders and the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Some said didn't come to that. The black sorority kept their distance, but they did march. Ida B. Wells maneuvered and knew some people and got in the center so that she could march with the group. So I joined a sorority who, when the first movements, first social active projects was to stress the importance of voting. They knew there was power in voting. And to this day, they continue to push for that. So along with my mother and the sorority, my ideas and strength and desires to have an impact on voting. Sometime marching, sometime just, I use my artistic ability to make different signs that people can use, especially in Georgia and North Carolina and Virginia, as a way to encourage people to vote. Last year in Georgia, where I'm from South Georgia. And the Governor Kemp of Georgia passed this rule or law or something to make it harder for Black people to vote. And one of the rules was that if you stood in line, they couldn't bring you water. Now, I don't understand, other than it just blatant suppression, blatant hate that you would do such a thing. Georgia is humid and hot. I just came from there yesterday. And people are starting to vote, certain write-ins today. But I was there the last week and it was hot. And I carried water wherever I went. So I was talking with Anika Lopes, and we was talking about voting and what we could do. I've always found something to do. And we was talking about this slave who knew that her child would be taken away the next day. So she gave her a sack, a tote. Tote is a word that's found among Geechee and Gullah regions of America, over in South Carolina and North Carolina. My father is from Savannah, which is Geechee country, and my mother's from South Carolina in Low Country. Both these areas are noted for Geechee Gullah, and those there's strong concentration of Blacks in those areas with their own language, their own Bible, etc. And the word tote means to carry. So we talk now, I'm gonna buy me a tote. That word comes from West Africa. It may be spelled differently, and but the meaning is the same. Some is spelled T-A-U, some in this country is T-O-T-E, tote, mean to carry. And that slave, her daughter would be leaving the next day. So she put in that tote things that might benefit her. She knows she'll never see her again. That tote is still around. It's in a museum in South Carolina. It went from generation to generation to generation. So Anika and I was talking, the idea that having a Tote2Vote, that in Georgia, when they go to vote, put some water and some nutrients, maybe an apple, banana. You put that in the tote and some information, because education is so important. You know, I did this project, Ashes to Ashes, is about lynching. And I often, and I think of the tote, I use it as an opportunity to remember those people who was lynched because they wanted to vote. Reverend Henry Lee was lynched, who's very famous minister who did a lot of civil rights, but he pushed for people to vote. People died, people were lynched. So it's, in a way, it's like a continuation of my Ashes to Ashes. I just say ashes don't burn. They just sort of smothering and be around, and from education and not forgetting those that were lynched. And when I do something in reference to voting, I know people die for that. People were lynched for that. And people were mistreated for that. And they're still being mistreated today because they have a desire to want to vote. So Tote2Vote was mine and Anika's project this year to give totes to people once they register to vote. And in that, we have a fan. And this is an example of the fan that they will get. And on the back of this fan, it just has some information, you know, where you can check to see whether or not you're registered to vote, how to become registered to vote, what are your state voting rules. The only weapon against the legal destruction of our rights is to vote. You can change. You are the change you seek. And President Obama always says that. The most powerful and most feared vote is the Black vote. So long people have worked to make sure we didn't have the opportunity to do that. From suffrage movement until on continued Klan and white supremacy movement, even today, that move to keep us from doing that is still prevalent, and we all know it. We know it's prevalent. They might try to cover it up by saying, well, we don't want people to give them water, and they may have some poison in the water and they get sick. Now, as long as people have been trying to vote and been giving them water, have you known somebody drop dead from poisoning in the water? Some of that plastic is so tough, you could need a machine gun to go through there and put something as far as poison. So that's the project, Tote2Vote. I was in Atlanta this week, you know, giving out some of the packages. My nephew is a lawyer in Atlanta, and he works for people to vote. And he was on a horseback, And he said, it doesn't matter how you get there, you got to get there. And he was riding a horse, said he's going to vote. So just anything to encourage people to vote, because it's so important for us to do that. And that has not changed. And the need for us to participate is important, but we gotta get in a position to protect our right, because that right is not protected now. So the response has been amazing. I did this painting you see on the front of the fan, and people are purchasing the totes, the fans, and I use that to send material down to Georgia, some to North Carolina, and some to Virginia. So that's, besides the Tote2Vote, I've been, part of the thing with Tote2Vote is talking about the right to vote would help us to address what is happening in with people's right to abortion. And as a physician, I had wanted to do OBGYN, and I was interviewed by the people, the Joneses in Virginia, who were the first in this country to do in vitro fertilization. So I was thinking, I said, maybe it was good that I didn't go into OBGYN, because I think it'd be heartbreaking to see what they're doing to women, and especially women of color and poor women, with this taking away their right to vote. And Anika is good at posting things. And so she posted something recently that I did. And it's in reference to the abortion and the right to vote, and what we should do to stop that. And so I had this little saying where I said, we got these politicians who do not know the difference between a fallopian tube or an inner tube are telling me what to do with my tubes. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. And I said, the only thing we can do to stop these idiots is to vote, to vote, to vote. And so that is my comments to that. So now I have used all my talents in some way to push for people to vote, making them aware and making them see the need to vote. There's a song that I often sing sometimes when I participate in some marches, and it is, there's a man going around spreading lies. There's a man going around spreading lies. So that's part of it. So I often sing that, and some people refer to that as being their motto song. And it talks about this person that goes around spreading lies. He supposed to make us great, but all he does is make us hate. There's a man going around spreading lies. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, my family's from the South, North Carolina, and I just, I once in a while tell some of the stories as a child when I went to North Carolina from New York, because I thought New York was just so liberal and open until I grew up a little bit and realized that it was almost as bad. It was just hidden.
Yep.
Because I also ended up on Long Island, which is like being in Alabama in the 60s. So, and they do the same thing there, which is why, one party rules, et cetera, Do you get pushback when you are bringing your Tote2Vote things or passing out stuff? Do you get pushback? Let's say in Atlanta or somewhere else, in Virginia or somewhere?
No, I'm really interacting with people who are doing some work and voting, and they're very receptive to the totes. They're very receptive to the fans. You know, in the South, fans are a big
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
I mean, fans have been a core part of Black in the South. It's not only Avon Ailey dancers that know how to handle those fans, but fans are important. So several areas want the fans, and it's still hot down there. It was yesterday. So it's gonna be hot a few more weeks. And they love the fans.
I'm talking about from the people who are running the voting stuff. Do you get any kind of pushback from them?
The ones, I don't usually deal with them. I'm not in a situation where I'm not in the voting area with, you know, the things I do is before people go to vote. And it's, so I know there are people who don't like this idea, but I don't have time to waste my time. So I don't. And anyway, they're not going to stop me for what I'm going to do. You know, I've been doing this a long time. From seeing my mother get in that car, and I realize now where we're from, they could easily killed her and nobody would have said anything. I'm from near where Aubrey, a young man who was jogging, he's in the next county over. So that's where I am. I'm down in the area where Senator Warnock was in Valdosta, which is near where I'm from. And the last time he was, you know, campaigning, and the Klan showed up, and the state troopers had to get him out of there. So they're alive and they're well. They have never gone away. Just like roaches, they keep multiplying.
Just keep going. Devorah, would you like to propose the question that you put into the chat?
Sure, that's actually from Margaret, so I'll let her speak.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm curious about the impact of redistricting in Georgia, given that that's had a profound impact on voting rights. And if there's an organization on the ground that you think is, really, really worth supporting.
Well, everybody, talks about Stacey Abrams' fair fight. There's some others there. There's these ministers that have, that have a really nice organized plan that I talked with. But it was a few months ago. I don't have it on me right now, but they had basically fanned out over the whole state, and they would get 100 people from each church, and time you multiply that, they was working on having thousands to do that. And
Wow.
I love what one of them said. People said they didn't like the politician. They do this and do them wrong. They told them Jesus ain't on the ballot. So if you're looking for someone perfect, you're looking at the wrong place. And so that the pushback, because the main thing people say, I don't trust people. There's nothing, they haven't done anything. And in reference, if African Americans say that to me, my statement is, how do you think we got this first Black female on the Supreme Court? She just didn't drop out of the sky. It's because we was in a position of power to put her there. How do you think we got the Peel Grant that helps historically Black colleges and universities to give them money? That's because we had people in a position that was receptive to that. I do not see the Republicans being receptive to putting a Black woman anywhere. I don't see them want to give a dime to Black schools. That would shock me. And the ones that got all this money, the PP, whatever they got all this money from, some of them got millions of dollars, but they're upset because students may get 10,000. I don't, so that's my comment to people who want someone perfect to run, and to people who say Blacks don't benefit from having someone in power. Your eyes must have been closed and your ears stopped up, because it has happened and it only could happen more. But I think that Blacks have to use their power and not be used. And but the Democrats, whom we have on notice, that it's what's still happening to African Americans in this country is not acceptable. So many problems. But only way I know of to correct those power, that is by voting and getting power. If voting was not that important, in the Black community, they don't keep guns out, right? They don't keep drugs out, but they keep your right to vote out. They make that difficult. So there's some reason they don't want you to do it, because there's power in there. They proved that with what they've done in the Supreme Court. There was focus over 30 years doing this. Mission accomplished. So you can't take that lightly, and you got to vote. I mean, I can't overstress that African Americans need to vote. When I hear that Republicans and Democratic women are voting for the Republicans because they aren't worried about abortion. They worry about their monies. The Republicans only make sure the rich get the money. That R in their name is for the rich. And so that's what they work on. And I do not understand that. They're sort of disheartening, because for them to not see the importance of us people having the right to voice and comments over their bodies. I don't think people understand that when that fallopian tube ruptures and you have an ectopic pregnancy, they're saying put you in the corner and let you die. I have a problem with that. I really do. But some people don't, now it's swinging back that women, I'm saying that's no big deal, and primarily white women. So I think that's sad, but all I can do is vote one time and encourage as many as I can, wherever I go and whatever I do, the importance of voting, because the abortion is going to hurt us, African Americans, bad education, bad water in your facilities like they had in Mississippi. It was Alabama, right? I think it was Mississippi.
Yeah, it was Mississippi.
Mississippi. So that's it. That's what that's my opinion. And
okay, Sandy, you have a question? Okay. Unmute.
Yes, I'm wondering if your fans, if the information on the back of the fan is only for voters in Georgia, or is there some way that even in Massachusetts, we could make use of those fans? And is it possible to purchase some from you? I'm needing a little bit more clarity about the fan in relation to the tote. The tote is a bag, is it, that you have made?
Let me show you one. This is a tote, but it's one of the big ones.
Yes.
We have one that is smaller.
Okay.
I'm gonna show you a smaller one. Thank you. See, our plan was to have this tote. They can carry this to the polls.
Yes.
But I cannot go and give them some water. We can put water in here. We can put information in here. We can give them some nutrients in here. And the fan is information on the back, which has always been, if you ever go to a Black church in the South,
Oh, yeah.
they have information on the fan. And for a long time, it was the only advertisement we had for Blacks was the fan. And to this day, fans are very important. So when you're standing in a hot line, it's nice to fan yourself. So it has two folds. On the back side is information, and you can fan the whole time you're standing. So the fans have been given out in Massachusetts and Springfield, and some others have given them out. So yes, are they only for the South? No. And they definitely, you know, it gets hot up here too. So they have they been given out here? Yes. So in this bag, we put a fan. That's what we did, what we're doing in the South, in here. And so it's twofold. Information on the back and the ability to fan. And in this tote, we give information. In this tote, you give somebody some water. In this tote, you may give a banana, not sometimes we don't put a banana in an apple or whatever, something, a granola bar. So when you're standing in line sometime for 8 hours, it's nice to have something, I think.
Is
Okay, now-
there a way that your tote bag with the fan can be available in Massachusetts?
You can go to the site, Tote2Vote, and there, one way, or you can, and I think there's a way on there, on that site, that you can contact me, and then we can talk about it if you want more than one. I mean, so I think my web guy is supposed to have set that up so you can contact either me or Nika.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Sorry. I got
Andrea, can
Yeah, I
I,
thrown out. You can take over for a minute while I try to get back in.
oh, okay, well, I had my hand raised. I just wanted, hi Shirley,
Hey, how you
great to
doing?
see you.
Nice to see
I wanted just to sort of shine a light on some of the work that Shirley's been doing over these years. And I just put in the chat a website of all her paintings. And one of the amazing things about her artwork is the power of the expression of the history of her area in Georgia and her personal history, but also more political, the history of cotton, the history of voting. All of it is depicted in these amazing paintings. And not to sort of talk self-promoting, but Shirley and I did 3 interviews on my show, and one of them is a gallery walkthrough of her home where all these paintings are hanging. So seeing them on the website is a fabulous way. And then also, if you wanted to hear Shirley to describe what they meant and how they came to her and different parts about them, that's possible through, and I can put that in the chat too. But Shirley, it's just amazing how your creativity really is about getting some stuff done. It's not, it's not just to make paintings or whatever, but really it's very empowering. And I remember having a conversation with you at the grocery store one time about Florida. And the idea that you had about boycotting oranges when, remember that idea? Yeah. I don't know if it ever fleshed out, but you were trying to make a point about the, what's that law there that people have the right to just like defend themselves?
They have they got so many laws in Florida, but one is where they can conceal a gun. That's one, or which one?
No, the 2 men that shot the jogger.
Oh, that, he
Is
was in
Stand
South
Your
Georgia.
Ground. Jessica
Yeah,
Ryan.
Stand Your
is-
Ground.
Yeah.
He's near where I grew up. He's from Brunswick, Georgia. And that's in, I think it's Glenn County. Our county is one of the lawyers who in the process of trying to take his license is from my hometown. So Aubrey
Wow.
was from Brunswick, which isn't that far from Waycross. I have some, I think the Bromer, B-R-O-M-E-R Gallery, Bromer Gallery. I had an exhibition there from December to April of this year. And I have some new pieces in there, and including the piece from, I did one of Ida B. Wells, and I did one of Shirley Chisholm with a chair. You know, she had this saying that if there's no seat for you at the table, bring your own chair.
Bring a chair, right?
Yeah, so I did a painting of that, and one of Ida B. Wells, you know, she did all those papers about lynching, and you know, she was a journalist, and she was never able to go back home after she started doing all this work on lynching. And a statue was set up last year for her, but she never could go back to Memphis again because of that. Their plan was to kill her if she came back. So those paintings were in the Bromer Gallery, and I think they have it on YouTube, so you can maybe able to see that show and see some of the other stuff I've
That's
done.
great.
And the book, I did this book of etchings in reference to Ashes to Ashes, and so you may be able to see some of that. And that was in, that one is in the Library of Congress. So
Yeah,
you can-
Right.
yeah. Because Ashes to Ashes, that happened in 2016, I think. When did
Right.
2016?
Film did it.
Yeah.
No, the service was done in 2016.
That's
Right.
what I meant.
Film came out,
20,
we finished it around 2018, 19,
18, 19.
because it was, the film was considered by the Academy Award. It
Yeah.
was one of the top short documentaries. So, you know, the funeral service was in 2016. And then we took all that material, made into a short documentary. And the person that was in that with me in Winford, he died last year, but his book he
Yeah.
finished just before he died, got the Pulitzer Prize. And that's so nice.
Oh,
So wonderful.
nice guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Shirley.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Sometimes things you get kicked out. Ricky, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, Shirley, I'd like to know how we can support the Tote2Vote in Georgia and places where it's really needed. Or if there's ways that we can help put together bags for Springfield, or what can we do to help out in a more active way?
So I would like to send totes and fans to Georgia and Virginia and North Carolina. So if we can come up with a way to set up and send some of these totes to them and send them really soon, because
Mm.
the election is it 3 weeks away?
Yeah.
And I did, as I said, we did some in Springfield because the voting in Springfield is so low. So, but any way to get people, encourage them to
Mhm.
vote is so important. So,
So do you need money to have the totes made?
yes,
or-
and the fans made.
Wait,
So
can they
how do
go
we-
on your website? Is there a donation thing on the website?
Yeah, you can do a donation on the website, or you can, if you want to get the
I put the
do the
link in the
donation,
chat.
I use that to buy bulk of fans and totes. So that would help.
The link
Okay,
is in
yes,
the
because
chat.
Sue Lowry put HTTP Tote2Vote.com in the chat, right in the early part of chat. So if you want to, Devorah?
Sorry, I can't get these little reaction thingies, these icons.
Okay.
Shirley,
Yes, ma'am.
a group of 30 of us are leaving next week
Uh-huh.
this area, and we're going down to Louisiana, Mississippi, Memphis, and Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Are those states relevant for your project at all? And if so, should we talk about how we might help out?
I mean, I want people to vote. I'm not, it started in Georgia because I'm from Georgia. But if you are going to these areas and you think that having these fans or having these totes would be a way to encourage people to vote, I'm definitely for that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Shirley.
You're welcome.
And anybody else, I'm just trying to see if anybody else had a question. Because like I said, and also, I think we have, Marcy put also under the Tote2Vote thing, also Shirley Whitaker's personal thing with her paintings. There's a website, so you all can look in the chat and copy that down, because that would be something that if you wanted to look into it or look at it and see a lot of her paintings, or at least see a picture of it, or go to the gallery to see.
Well, the Bromer, I think you probably BROMER.com. I think maybe do that in / Shirley Whitaker. Because those are some of the works I did last year. And so that was the most recent, finished in April. But the ones that I always do things like Marcy was saying relative to the South. Cotton, the church,
ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on marching, keep on fighting, keep on shouting until our vote is free.
Who did that?
That was beautiful.
Thank you. I want to know who found that.
Even right here, even right here in Amherst, I know in the larger picture of things, Amherst is a small place, but the degree to which people can get mobilized everywhere could be helpful. And I wonder if we,
turn me around,
there it goes.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on marching, keep on fighting, keep on shouting until our vote is free.
Yeah. So I was thinking if we could get some totes, if the league could support it, we, get out to the Hope Church and to the Goodwin Memorial. I mean, even here, to get people really energized and about it, it makes a difference. Yeah. So
That's important.
That's
understand the power of the vote. I think people underestimate.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rebecca?
I was just going to encourage you, Dr. Whitaker, to apply for the League of Women Voters has a civics grant, and we can give up to $1,000 for a project that relates to our program. So what we believe in, and definitely your election work is right up our alley. And so it's a very short application. It's right online, and we can send you a link for it. It's very simple, and it's a little tight, the timeline before November 8th, but it's certainly for your future work. I mean, this is an ongoing
Yeah,
Gotta vote forever.
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
I'll send you that.
I appreciate that. And I
Yeah.
do my best to get it back to you really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Did anybody else have a question? I didn't want to skip anybody. I looked in the chat. Thank you for all the information, Sue and Marcy, and for the. Please look through the chat and get information off of this. Really good. And Renee put Sojourner Truth School for Social Change leadership class coming up. Black women suffragists singing our song. The trainer is Kathy Bullock. And the date is Tuesday, November 1st, 6 to 8. So I'm just saying that's the first thing in the chat. So you want to look at that or go to the Truth School website, you can register. And the cost is reasonable, free. You can give a donation, but the course itself is free.
It's good.
And before I forget, while we're doing that, Stan Rosenberg, Adrian is doing a forum Thursday this week. It's a Zoom, right? From 7 to 8, interviewing Senator Stan Rosenberg about the roles and responsibilities of several of the elected officials that people don't know anything about. Could you give us an example, Adrian, of some of the officials that most of us don't know what they do?
Well, before I go there, I would love to thank Dr. Shirley and the group that brought her to us. The Tote2Vote program, and thank you, Rebecca, for mentioning our grant, and for Ash for saying that this is we could absolutely target our Amherst population that we do not often reach in other ways, that the grant that we have, if we can move very swiftly on it, would be very appropriate to get the Tote2Vote program here in our own area. There certainly are pockets that we're not reaching. But a little plug, it seems to me that the Tote2Vote's a perfect sort of beginning to this week of voter information for the League. So please join us on Thursday. I'm not really going to be interviewing Stan. We are going to do a back and forth on the 5 lesser known Commonwealth positions. The Governor's Council, which we see as counselor on our ballots, the Attorney General, the State Auditor, and the Treasurer, and the very important Secretary of State. So the way we have structured it on Thursday is that we're going to let Stan give us an entree discussion into the nitty-gritties of it, and then we're going to open it up immediately after each of those positions are discussed for your questions. So we will go through each of those positions, and you might say, well, why aren't we covering the governor and the lieutenant governor's position? We are not, because we wanted to focus more on those other lesser known positions, but we're going to entertain questions for that as well if we have time at the end. So please join us. If you haven't registered yet, just go to lwvamherst.org and we'll see you then. And thank you for that plug, Andrea.
Okay.
And thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Shirley. What a terrific way you led us into this week.
Oh,
Good luck with that wonderful program.
Thank you. Thank you
People
very
go
much.
to the website, donate toward it, and we'll make sure you fill out this form, and maybe that'll help get some of those bags out and whatever. And it's, it's not stopping in November. Also, before I forget, please, when you leave this Zoom, there's a little quiz thing. It's not a quiz, it's just questions asking people what they got from it, or was it good for you or whatever. Please answer the survey. It helps us put, give information to the Mass League of Women Voters, et cetera. And it looks good that we have a bunch of people who are interested in doing the things that the League wants you to do. And I mean, I support this 100%. So please, please do the survey. And thank you so much. I wish I had flowers I could give you. But
the flower would be that if you help Tote2Vote that
Yes,
would be
yes,
fabulous.
yes.
And I was thinking about, you know, the program you're gonna have with Rosenberg is the fact that for each one of those, if you can summarize it, as they say, so the goats can get it, you know, make it very simple, because I think it's imperative that people know. Someone was saying these people have impact on who the judges are, but we don't know that.
Mhm.
And I think that if it's short and sweet, that's something maybe can put on the back of a card, or you can put where they can on the back of a fan, but they can, you know, for question something to educate them, because that's one thing Tote2Vote want to do is in that bag educate people, because they don't understand the power of all these positions that impacts all of our lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much, and for the clear explanation, and for all that you have done for the last many, many years. And we continue to support you, but definitely go to Tote2Vote and look into it, because it's a very well done organization, as everything that Dr. Whitaker does. So thank you, and thank you all for coming this evening, and I appreciate you. Bye-bye.